I have strong biases against the true crime people. Don't get murdered. What's the issue with true crime podcasts? I guess the main issue with true crime podcasts is that they seem to be built white women giving themselves an anxiety disorder by hyper fixating on and like speculating on the gory details of just like crimes that are recanted, you know, by the podcasters. Like it seems the whole purpose really is to like facilitate this anxious and paranoid attitude towards the world in a way that makes life more interesting but also makes you a worse person. There's also a lot of there's also like a bunch of other stuff like true crime podcasters will start like doing investigations on crimes that haven't actually been solved, or like there are stories of like people calling up like the relatives of recently murdered people asking for their scoop on stuff, and people act like junior detectives. There's just a big issue with it. I don't have an issue with the idea of podcasts going over crimes or whatever. And by the way, if there isn't already a true crime podcast that's like entirely about police incompetence, like here are crimes that happened and everyone knew they happened, but the police took like 7 years, um, you know, to get to it. Like that's if that's not already a thing, then I want that shit. Okay, but in its current state, do you guys wasn't like the main true crime podcast person, like the person who's part of like the big one, after the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial ended, she was like, "Oh, it's been so fun going over this trial together. Oh, it feels like it feels it feels like we've all come so far together," or something like that, like describing an ongoing like domestic abuse trial. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know, it's pretty weird. JCS is not true crime. JCS goes over the details of police interrogations. Totally different thing. Um, there's a whole lot of the case went cold for 20 years type shit that never directly implicates police incompetence. Yeah, because the true crime phenomena is like a manifestation of like waspy middle to upper middle class pseudo liberal white women who consider themselves progressive but probably would feel uncomfortable if their daughters dated a black guy. Like the liberalism is not to be questioned, okay? The police competence, is not to be questioned. These are, no, listen, we will not have critical analysis in our true crime podcasts, all right? They are allergic to it. It needs to be individualized, it needs to be sensationalized. You can't learn anything political, like real political. They have to depoliticize crime somehow by making it entirely about individuals um, who um, who do wacky individual stuff. That's incorrect. Obviously, I'm generalizing here. There are literally hundreds of true crime podcasts. I'm talking about tendencies that I've seen. So is this just true crime podcasts or is this true crime shows as well? The difference with a true crime show is that a show has a higher production budget and there's a higher cost per episode, meaning they go over fewer incidents. I don't think true crime shows have as much of a habit of harassing the actual existing like relatives of recent murder victims or whatever. Um, I've seen some variants in like true crime show type stuff, but most of the time they tend to be pretty trashy TV, which is unfortunate because like police investigations and crime analyses are like are a bedrock for meaningful critical analysis. Yeah. This is my opportunity once again to point out the well, there's your problem podcast, which is essentially just as they describe it, a true crime show for social murder. This is my autistic special interest. I have watched every episode plus their Patreon episodes. Uh, if you see any episodes here that say that I didn't watch the whole thing, it's because YouTube is lying to you. I promise you I did. Phenomenal podcast. Couldn't recommend it more. You know, great stuff. Yeah. What was social murder? Social murder is when a person is killed not due to like an individual's actions, but towards like a set of policies or social attitude that causes their death, you know? So like an example of social murder might be if there are a bunch of people on a crowded subway platform and somebody gets knocked down, like an old person gets knocked down onto the tracks, and they're just there for several minutes while nobody helps them, and eventually the subway the train rolls through and kills them, you know. That I think that might be an example of like a low scale social murder, because you know it's not really like the one person who bumped them's fault, because they're all sort of trying to get, they were all getting crowded on the platform, you know. Could have been like a lot of people. It's more like everyone's sort of disregard for human life kind of added up to create that. A more systemic example of social murder would be like people dying of preventable disease because of really bad like healthcare laws, you know? So like a person dying because they have diabetes and insulin is $500 a vial, you know, when in every other country it's like $5 or whatever. That could be an instance of social murder, because it's not any one person murdering you. It's like you know, the you know, it's sort of a policy failure, you know. Homelessness, yeah, social murder. AIDS epidemic? Nope. AIDS epidemic was Reagan personally murdering all those people. I don't fucking care. No, no, no. We're not. I'm not taking that away from him. That shit weighs directly on his soul. Okay, he's in hell, being weighed down into the lava pits by the weight of all of the homosexuals that he personally murdered. Yeah, social genocide might be a more direct one there. Nancy Reagan also ignored it. Well, yeah, she consulted her fucking astrology charts and oh yeah, that's true, Demon Mama. A lot of like forensic tools that people believe in are not as good as people think they are. Um like the polygraph test. Yeah, polygraph tests are just like, they just don't work. They're fake. What about people committing suicide due to lack of transition materials? Yeah, I'd consider that social murder. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um I think I think one of the reasons people believe that polygraph tests can be effective is because it's been shown that in ideal conditions they can be like decently reliable. But the ideal conditions are like if you hook somebody up and then you're like, okay, tell something that's true. Okay, now say something that you know is a lie. Like under circumstances like that, I think they give decent results. The problem is like in a real life police investigation, if you're asking somebody any questions, their brain is on fire. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean anything. Like it in like ideal conditions. Okay, now think of a lie really hard versus think of a truthful thing really hard. Like that, like as opposed to like a police investigation where like a person's brain and neurochemistry is literally like shooting revolvers up into the sky like Yosemite Sam, you know. Like you're not. The US Department of Energy still uses polygraph tests for their security clearances. That's insane and highly vestigial. At that point, they're just rolling dice, you know? They could just ask you anything. Like, they hook you up, because Department of Energy goes over nuclear protocols, you know? They hook you up and they're like, um, have you ever stolen US nuclear secrets? And you're like, no. The polygraph returns that you're lying. They just shoot you in the head right there. Would it be conspiratorial to believe they were specifically developed to lead to greater indictments? No, 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 not at all. The history of like police and what can be legally admitted into court for like for a trial, like the police have for a long time, they want everything on the table. The historically every time the law is like yeah, you know, like it's actually like you probably, you know, like Miranda rights, like you can't admit the stuff if the Miranda rights weren't handled properly because they weren't aware of their rights, you know. Something legally waived now for federal officers operating within 100 miles of the border. You guys all saw that stuff with the border agents and stuff like that, you know. Like what gets admitted into court, you know, like what types of evidence. Listen, if the police could just like walk into court, high five the DA, and then show tarot cards showing that you were the murderer, and then they just shoot you right in the head, they would do that. Like if legally, if tarot readings were admissible, every single police department would have 17 psychic readers, and tarot experts on their payroll, and they would just have them in a back room, like just pre-choosing cards to convict all the black people and exonerate all the white people. Okay, they will do and say anything. Cops will do and say anything. They will lie to you. They are monsters. They hate you. They want you dead. Um, Vaush, the Supreme Court literally said the use of a polygraph was little better than could be obtained by the toss of a coin. Yeah, in one of the Supreme Court's very infrequent W's. Yeah, into X hippie. The issue is like this does happen every time. It's every time I talk about anything on stream, like I'm immediately met with people emailing me, giving me like hyper specialized info. A guy typed out an essay a couple of days ago on the specifics of how drones fly. I mean, I can see this right here, like specifics on railroads, South African immigration policy, the epistemic justifications for antinatalism. You know, I learn a lot of interesting stuff through my email, but it is a business email. I got an email the other day, literally saying, like, "Can you give me some tips on how to integrate leftist themes into my Dungeons and Dragons game?" I have nothing but respect and love for you, but you must, you must understand. I get a lot of emails. Have mercy.